Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Good news on this Friday as we start another weekend. A dock worker strike that threatened American supply chain weeks before an election is over just days after it began and before inflicting pain on consumers. Good news. We'll give you the details as they'll go back to work today and work through January the 15th. We have another major union choose not to endorse Kamala Harris in this year's presidential race. Is this another non-endorsement endorsement? And it's been 1 week since Hurricane Helene made landfall along the U.S. Gulf Coast in Florida, decimating communities across the southeast and leaving at least 215 people dead in 6 states, with nearly half of those deaths in western North Carolina. We have the latest updates on storm coverage as well. South Carolina Lt Governor Pamela Evette joins us with updates on South Carolina's response to recovery efforts for the thousands of South Carolinians affected by Hurricane Helene.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
A dock worker strike that threatened the American supply chain literally weeks prior to an election ended as workers will be expected to return to work today. The union represents tens of thousands of East Coast dock workers and the shipping industry. They reached a tentative agreement on wages and are extending an expired contract through January 15th, 2025 to give both parties more time to negotiate a final 6-year contract. The Union and Alliance of Shipping Companies that employ dock workers said last night, effective immediately, all current job actions will cease and all work covered by the master contract will resume. The deal diffuses a political time bomb for Democrats particularly, who need all the union support they can get right now, but could not afford a prolonged strike that would have soured voters on the economy and on the Democrats for their support of unions. This could have been another disaster for the Carolinas especially, as we are trying to begin the recovery mode from Hurricane Helene. To throw in a strike like this that would have, number one, decrease the supply of many things that we need for the recovery, but number two, increase inflation on those items because we'd have to try to get them from other sources. The International Longshoremen's Association, which represents the workers who load and unload cargo containers at ports along the East Coast and in the Gulf of Mexico, walked off the job on Tuesday, as expected. The terms of an agreement were not made available yet, but the wage increase is expected to be substantial for union members, some of whom already do well by blue-collar standards, earning 6 figures a year. Reports are that their base salary was $81,000 a year, with a range up to $200,000. And part of what they're griping over, part of why they were striking, is because the companies, their employer, would not agree to a 77% increase. Who gets a 77% increase? Now, look, I'm happy that they're not striking because really, I don't know if most people really understand what a dilemma we were going to be in here. I don't know. This was truly another disaster in the making, because it may have taken a week, 2 weeks, or maybe even a month or more, because so many companies already have a backlog or a stock, a supply of products, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. But if this thing had gone on, if it had been a prolonged strike, and the shelves in stores started getting empty because they couldn't restock, that's when we would have noticed it. Because you might have money to buy something, but kind of like during those COVID years, you wouldn't be able to find it to buy it, even if you had the money. So this is good news. Now, let's be hopeful that they come up with a final deal between now and January so that we're not going through this again. The good news on that, though, is hopefully after November the 5th, Donald Trump's our next president. Let him deal with it, and he will deal with it. The President Joe Biden said in a statement after learning of the deal, today's tentative agreement on a record wage and extension of the collective bargaining process represents critical progress towards a strong contract, he said. I congratulate the dock workers from the ILA who deserve a strong contract after sacrificing so much to keep our ports open during the pandemic. Look, they did their job. They were paid to do a job, and they worked just like many of us worked through the pandemic. I don't know why people use this excuse. Well, they worked through the pandemic. They didn't get a raise during the pandemic. They worked long hours. We all worked during the pandemic. If they don't want to work for the $81,000 a year, I'll bet there's probably a lot of people out there who would love to have those jobs at $81,000 a year. Biden, of course, was in South Carolina this week. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster said that he spoke with the president about the possibility of him interceding if, in fact, it appeared the strike was going to continue. I'm sure Biden is relieved that he's not going to have to take that chance or take that action because he didn't want to. The last thing Joe Biden wanted to do was to appear to be anti-union and intercede in a strike, a union strike. The strike united Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump in denouncing foreign shipping companies in one respect that control a lot of trade coming in. The messaging became another sign that both parties see the support of blue-collar workers as crucial to the outcome of the November elections, which is true. But it also put a spotlight on unions in general, and particularly this union's fiery leader, Harold Daggert, who had been threatening disruptions to the supply chain for over a year, had attacked shipping companies based in Europe and Asia. But not all the attention has been good, because this guy has a huge salary, reportedly has expensive taste, and alleged mob ties. He became a lightning rod for this cause. Elon Musk posted on X this week, quote, "Dude had more yachts than me." Again, dock workers can make a lot of money, but their management can make a lot more. This guy supposedly flew around the world on expensive trips, had nice big homes, just lived a lavish lifestyle off of the backs of a lot of his workers. Figures, Daggett spoke passionately about the threat of robots replacing humans. That's been part of this deal. Picketing dock workers held signs at ports across the country this week that read, "Machines don't feed families." Part of what they want in this new contract is a guarantee that technology will not replace them, that AI will not replace some of their jobs. We all would like to have a contract, wouldn't we? Textile workers back in the day in the South particularly would have loved to have had some type of guarantee like that, right? Leading into Tuesday's strike and the last few days after the strike began, major business groups and a lot of Republicans leaned heavily on Joe Biden to intervene using the 1947 Taft-Hartley Act, which affords the president emergency powers to seek court injunctions to temporarily halt stoppages if it's going to cause harm to the country overall. Biden repeatedly rejected the idea, saying that he believed the collective bargaining process would take care of the situation, would lead to a swift conclusion. Taft-Hartley is a near universally reviled act by labor unions who see it as a weapon that deprives them of one of their biggest points of leverage in labor negotiations, being able to strike, being able to walk off the job. Invoking Taft-Hartley would essentially have meant deflating unions' enthusiasm for Vice President Kamala Harris in the hopes that doing so would have been less of a problem than a protracted strike, a trade-off that Biden was betting on. So again, look, I'm happy that they're not going to disrupt our supply chain. We can't afford it. In other union news, the International Association of Firefighters yesterday said it will remain neutral in this presidential race, deciding not to endorse a candidate, becoming the second major union to do so in just a couple of weeks. The union's executive board backed President Biden in 2020. In a statement, the union president, Edward Kelly, said the union membership voted by a margin of 1.2 percentage points not to endorse either Vice President Kamala Harris or President Donald Trump.
Joey Hudson here. This year I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD weight loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD weight loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part? PhD weight loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD weight loss program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com.
It's been 1 week since Hurricane Helene made landfall along the U.S. Gulf Coast in Florida, decimating communities across the southeast, coming up through Georgia into the Carolinas, leaving at least 215 people dead in 6 states, with nearly half of those deaths in North Carolina. Buncombe County officials revealed that at least 72 people have been killed in their county alone. Life-saving aid continues to flow into regions that were hit hard with this deadly storm. President Joe Biden visited this week, vowed to provide resources to aid in recovery operations as he directed the Department of Defense to deploy 1,000 active duty soldiers to support the delivery of essential food, water, and other commodities to those who need it most in the hardest hit areas. Search and rescue operations are ongoing in areas of western North Carolina as well. Some areas were so isolated, no cell phone service, no electricity, of course. In some cases, they are cut off from being able to drive down and cross over roads to get back to the nearest cities because of this catastrophic flooding. Destroyed hundreds of roads and bridges, again cutting off escape routes to many who live in those mountain hills. As access is gained to some of those areas, unfortunately, more victims are being located. In the Asheville area, search and rescue operations are entering their 7th day. Buncombe County Sheriff Quentin Miller reported that over 200 people are still missing as teams continue to access areas that have been cut off because of landslides, destroyed infrastructure. Many victims remain unaccounted for as search and rescue efforts intensify. President Biden, as I mentioned earlier, visited North Carolina. He came into Greenville, Spartanburg in the upstate of South Carolina, met with Governor Henry McMaster on Wednesday, again vowing to give us the help that we need. However, that's questionable. Been a lot of debate on where the money's going to come from, how much money there's going to be, how much the federal government is going to step in and take care of. Been a lot of people questioning the idea that we can send billions to Ukraine to help them. We can help the illegals in our country There have been reports of illegals using the CBP app to get $5,000 of assistance, yet people are having trouble getting assistance from FEMA, American citizens, that is. Across the state lines from North Carolina into Tennessee, Tennessee hit hard too in that area. In Irwin, Tennessee, 2 deaths have been confirmed at a manufacturing where there have been reports that some of the employees were told not to leave on Friday morning after it became apparent that there was going to be heavy flooding. 5 others missing after employees from this local business were swept away by the flood. A chilling image of a casket that was floating down the river has shocked many on social media. And these are just the images that we're seeing as people are now in the recovery phase as we try to get back to a normal life. The Southeast is struggling to recover. Meanwhile, reports are that another storm is formulating in the Gulf and could be here again as early as this weekend, early next week. On our text line, Dan writes, "Hey, Joey, what happened to western North Carolina is beyond bad. Scared for those trapped in remote areas like Mitchell County. What is your take on the impact the storm will have on the election, especially with Georgia and North Carolina being deciding states? Don't think polling places will be operational by the election." And that's going to be a real question. Here's what I think will happen. And Dan, I don't have a total answer for you. I think it's too soon for us to really know exactly what's going to happen. I do know this. I do know that the Republican Party, the Trump campaign, will do everything in their power to make sure those polling places are open and open on time. That may mean moving some polling places. Now, will this affect turnout? Possibly. Because when you have people whose homes have been destroyed, who've had family members killed in this tragedy, they're not as concerned about the election again. I hope they'll realize how important it is just by the mere fact that we need Donald Trump leading our nation, rebuilding FEMA, because I can tell you Donald Trump is the man to have in office to rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild some of the bridges and the roads that were destroyed. But we'll see. We'll see. Texter says, once Jennifer from Polk County gets her power back on, she can listen to you on Podbean. The great thing about Podbean is that she can listen to all your previous podcasts. They have great audiobooks, too, that I can listen to for free. Glad you finally got your lights on. Sorry Peg lost her pecan trees. I'm sorry I lost those pecan trees as well. They were beautiful, older than I, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am. Some of you know. But yeah, that was. But look, that's a small price, considering people have lost their homes, and again, people have lost loved ones. Texter says, this is from Paul. Paul writes, $230 electric bill for September. Okay, I enjoyed the air conditioning and hot showers. Now 1 week of no AC, no hot showers, no fans, unless I make a paper fan. Okay, I understand Duke Power is at the mercy of the storms, but to be this severe is poor planning. Whatever happened to putting electrical lines underground? Well, I can assure you there's probably going to be a lot more. That discussion is going to be had at all levels of government. Paul says, done ranting, thanks for listening. You're welcome, Paul. That's what I'm here for. Texter, don't really know if the vice presidential debate really made any difference in the current election, but I do think you've gotten a good look at the 2028 presidential candidate. Well, I would agree with you as far as J.D. Vance is concerned, but surely Tim Walz. Let's assume that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz loses. I don't think Tim Walz is going to be a candidate in 2028. Do you? Speaking of Jennifer, texter, hey, Joey, it's Jennifer. I wanted to give you a shout out this morning on Mike Gallagher's radio show. Thank you, Jennifer. He did tell me that you had texted him, but I don't think he read to the very end of my text. What I said was, I wake up all through the night with the battery radio going, but I wake up right at 5 o'clock every morning now when Joey's early show comes on, and it is such a comforting voice to me that I go right back to sleep and miss the whole show. Now, Jennifer, so what you're telling me is kind of like Jesse and Simon, my 2 Cocker Spaniels. They hear me on the radio, it knocks them right out. They go to sleep immediately. But the good news is, Jennifer, and I text you this, is you can always listen to the podcast anytime. You can go back and listen anytime. Just search for Joey Hudson, Just the Truth on the Odyssey app, or wherever you listen to podcasts, just like Paul mentioned a minute ago, Podbean, Apple, any of the others. You can always listen to Just the Truth.
Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com.
Breaking news yesterday involving country music legend Garth Brooks. The 62-year-old singer has been accused of sexual assault and battery in a lawsuit that was filed yesterday by a former makeup artist. Here's what we know so far. A woman identified in the lawsuit as Jane Doe alleges that Garth Brooks raped her in 2019 during a work trip to Los Angeles for a Grammy tribute event. According to the court documents obtained by media, she had worked with Brooks since 2017 as his personal makeup and hairstylist. The lawsuit details the alleged incident, claiming that Brooks and the makeup artist were booked in the same hotel room, where Brooks appeared naked and later assaulted her. The woman also accused him of exposing himself, sharing explicit sexual fantasies, and groping her on multiple occasions. In response, Brooks filed a preemptive lawsuit in Mississippi denying all the allegations. He stated that for months he had been pressured to pay millions of dollars in hush money and called the claims false. In a statement, Brooks said, quote, "I trust the system. I do not fear the truth, and I'm not the man they painted me to be." The makeup artist's legal team commended her for coming forward and stated that Brooks's actions were an attempt to intimidate and silence their client. They urged other potential victims to speak up, highlighting the importance of addressing sexual misconduct across all industries, including country music. Of course, Jane Doe is seeking monetary damages and trial by a jury. What do you bet? There's going to be others coming forward in the days to come. That's kind of how this whole cancel culture does. We kind of had a brief break from that, hadn't we? Remember, who did it start with? Years ago, and then it was like every week there was a new allegation on someone new. And in some cases, they ended up, finding them guilty. But I'm always a little bit leery, particularly on the Me Too cases that come up following this. We'll see. In a major legal ruling, a federal judge yesterday sided with a southern Arizona rancher in a lawsuit that accuses the Biden-Harris administration, of violating environmental laws in its efforts to reverse Donald Trump's border policies. The decision has implications for the ongoing border security debate and the environmental impact of halting the border wall construction that Joe Biden did with an executive order upon assuming the Oval Office. Stephen Smith is a rancher in Arizona. He was among the plaintiffs in a case challenging the Department of Homeland Security. The suit brought by the Massachusetts Coalition for Immigration Reform and others argued that DHS has failed to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act when it halted construction of the U.S.-Mexico border wall, a key project from the previous administration, of course. This was part of how Donald Trump was elected to be president to begin with. It was a major campaign issue in his first run in 2016 when he easily defeated Hillary Clinton in a surprise victory, surprise to Hillary, that is. And you'll recall, and this came up in this week's debate, when Governor Walz talked about the immigration issue, talked about Donald Trump claiming that he would build the wall and that Mexico would pay for it. And he was very quick to point out Mexico has not paid a single dime towards construction of the wall. What Walz doesn't want to talk about is the fact that millions, if not billions of dollars worth of wall material, metal partitions that had already been fabricated to build the wall were abandoned by the person he wants to be his boss, Kamala Harris, and her crony, Joe Biden, when they just halted the wall that had already been, the materials are already there. The money had already been allocated to build it. They hate Donald Trump so badly and the idea of Trump's wall that they will let us lose billions of dollars and still not have a wall. Now, back to this lawsuit. Under it's considered the National Environmental Policy Act is called NEPA. Federal agencies are required to conduct environmental assessments to evaluate the potential impact of their actions on the environment. Judge Trevor McFadden, who presided over the case, ruled that the Biden administration's DHS did not meet these requirements before reversing the Trump-era border policies, resulting in environmental and personal harms to Mr. Smith. Smith testified that the number of immigrants crossing his property had significantly increased since Joe Biden took office, leading to environmental damage. He reported finding large amounts of trash on his land daily and noted that his cattle were eating the litter, which could negatively affect their health. And this is the thing that I have never understood about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris when they argue against the wall and argue against trying to enforce our border, is when you have people like Stephen Smith, a rancher who just wants to be left alone and allowed to run his ranch and to support his family. But no, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're perfectly happy to sit back and try to prosecute him, try to hold him accountable when all he wants is for his country to have a border, and he especially doesn't want illegals coming across his property to get to illegally come into our country. It's just that simple. Smith also testified that water is a scarce resource for his cattle and local wildlife, but that the illegals were using water from troughs on his land, leading to significant water losses. They've traveled far and wide, so they want some water. And they're drinking it out of his water troughs that he has for his livestock. He claimed this problem was directly tied to the DHS decisions that ended Trump-era policies like the Remain in Mexico program. And that's another one I never understand. Why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are opposed to these people remaining in Mexico until their case can be heard, rather than coming into the country and allowed to just stay in our country until their case can be heard, as if they're going to really show back up, as if they're going to report to the court on the assigned date. All they want is to get into the country, and you never see them again. Judge McFadden concluded that this rancher had suffered tangible harms and was entitled to relief. The judge stated that the illegal activity on Smith's ranch was a predictable result of DHS's policy changes, emphasizing that the environmental and personal toll on Smith's property was the fault of the federal government. I'm sure that it will be appealed. But if it's upheld, it could affect other border properties as well. Interesting opinion piece on FoxNews.com by Lee Carter talking about Tuesday's vice presidential debate. I've asked you this question. Many of you have sounded off on, was there a clear winner in Tuesday's debate? And the other question is, will it make a difference as to who people will actually vote for? Did it change any minds? Did it change the race? Lee Carter writes that no, it didn't. Lee Carter says that Tuesday's debate, she said, offered a refreshing change from the combative tone that has plagued our political discourse over the past 8 years. Now, she's talking about Donald Trump, of course. She wrote, for many viewers, it was a relief to witness a civil exchange between two candidates who surprisingly seemed to respect one another. Senator J.D. Vance showcased his skills as both an orator and debater, garnering a more favorable opinion from many voters. That he did. I think a majority of people believe he won the debate. On the other hand, she writes, Governor Tim Walz, while appearing somewhat nervous and lackluster, managed to connect with viewers through his likability and relatability. The unfortunate reality, however, is that neither candidate did enough to change any votes. And she kind of goes through and analyzes various things. She said that there was frustration when candidates failed to answer direct questions. She said they would skillfully avoid answering. She said, while skillful pivots are common in debates, ignoring a question won't allow candidates to move on effectively. Vance faced tough questions about January the 6th, while Walz stumbled through responses related to his affiliation with the CCP, leaving voters dissatisfied. We didn't get any answers on that. We still don't know why he went to China. We still don't know who he saw in China. But I do think it's pretty clear he was not in China when he said he was in China. That was one of the questions that really tripped him up. He didn't know how to answer it because he hesitated because he knew he has not been telling the truth. He knew that he was not in China when the whole Tiananmen Square happened, and you had these students in this protest who were treated very badly. He knew he wasn't there. He didn't know how to get out of that one. He should have just admitted, hey, look, I'm sorry. I wasn't there. I misspoke. The gist of this editorial, though, is that what Americans urgently need is assurance. What we need is answers to make an educated decision. In her opinion, we didn't get that from either candidate. I would disagree with that. I would say that J.D. Vance did make his points and made them very clear.
Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com.
On our guest line, Lt Governor Pamela Evette. Wow, what a week we have had. Still a lot of work to do. Give us an update on where we are. Of course, President Joe Biden was in the upstate this week. Are we getting what we need from the federal government?
He made some assurances to the governor that whatever we needed, he would provide. We'll see, 30 days for all of our counties to get their assessments put together. We have a lot of, when the governor declared a state of emergency, that opens up the triggers for the relief that we need. So we saw a list come out, the counties that have already been approved through FEMA for disaster relief. There are still more counties. If your county wasn't on there, please do not panic. The counties that got theirs in first, the state's not sitting on anything. As soon as we get it, we're turning it in. And I think that's the assurances that the governor was looking for from the president, is that, we would not have pushback on the counties who really need help. And so we're moving on with that. We have a lot of great people, Joey, helping, volunteering, cutting down trees with their chainsaws, trying to help crews. Please be careful. We've had a lot of destruction and road crews working around the clock, whether it's SCDOT, our State Guard, our South Carolina National Guard, cutting down trees. We have teams in from Louisiana, very skilled. They get hit with hurricanes all the time. It's been an outpouring of love from across the country coming to help South Carolinians.
Yeah, and it's bad, of course, what we're experiencing, but it's good to see that there is that spirit of helping one another, and you're just really seeing that. I had a chance earlier this week to talk with Jared Spencer, who is mayor of Cowpens, and he said one of the things that has surprised him the most is how Cowpens is a small town. They don't have some of the resources that other cities have. He said, our people just got out and went to work, and they didn't expect somebody to come along and do this for them.
I think you see that in the rural areas. David and I, our family, we live here in Travelers Rest. And when we woke up last Friday, we probably had upwards of 60 trees down on our property. And as David and the boys were getting our chainsaws ready to go out and see what we could do, we heard chainsaws. We get to the end of our driveway, and there's 2 Greenville County deputies who were trying to get through the road to assess and see people. And there just happened to be a PRT ranger behind them who had some chainsaws, and they were cutting trees. So you're right. The boys, David, they jumped in. I'm more of a limb puller. I don't know if if this lieutenant governor should be wielding a chainsaw. I don't know if that's my forte, but I can pull limbs with the rest of them. But, and that's what we kind of saw is that spirit, and only hear about the bad things, the people who are losing their temper, the people who are arguing with other people. For every one person that's acting out, there are 10 people doing something great. And I think that needs to be the message is, helping one another, helping our neighbor. And we know, hey, I got power on, late yesterday. I'm sitting in it with everybody. I understand that it can get frustrating. I'm a 95-year-old mom that lives with me. It can get frustrating and scary, and you feel like but we are still so blessed. That's what I kept going back to. My family's safe. A tree didn't come through my house. This is not comfortable. But we'll just look at the pictures of the devastation where people have lost their homes, their businesses, a loved one, their cars. I mean, their whole house wiped away. That brings it back into perspective, Joey. Like, this may not feel comfortable, but dear Lord, my family's safe.
Yeah, you're right. That's the important thing. And you're right, too. The bad behavior, that is just few and far in between. I mean, overall, people are just jumping in. I've just watched some of the relief efforts, and like the group at the downtown airport who had people coming in with helicopters and airplanes, and they were literally flying supplies into western North Carolina, into areas that could not be reached otherwise. We've had people literally from all over the country come to the Carolinas to help us. So that's been encouraging for sure. Now, let's go back for a minute. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette with me today. You mentioned the counties and that there could be other counties added to the list. I've seen on social media, and you know how it is with social media. You can't always rely, but I've seen some posts on social media talking about a certain county saying that, well, our county waited too late and they're not going to be eligible now. Some counties will be added along the way, as I understand it, correct?
That's absolutely true. All the counties have 30 days from the incident, right? The disaster incident. So I've been intentional about my posting, and that was one of the posts that I did, is please stop listening to Facebook. I have to remind my 95-year-old mother that because Facebook is a new thing, right? And she will tell me all these things she hears, and I'll say, Mom, where did you hear that? And she'll say, oh, I read it on Facebook. And I'm like, okay, Mom, remember. If you don't know, if you've heard this from your neighbor's cousin twice removed down the road, probably not true, because that story has grown. And 30 days, these are the facts. Every county has 30 days from the date of the incident to submit all their things to the state. The state then submits it to FEMA on the federal side, and then FEMA has to approve it. And that comes from each individual county. If you have questions, please email them.
Yeah.
Be kind. I mean, they're working hard. Some counties have more resources than other counties and have bigger teams and things that could get them around quicker to do these assessments. And please look to official sources for your information. Look
Right.
to the governor's press conferences. Call SCEMD. If you have service, go out there and look at the reports. They're putting them out there regularly.
Yep.
And let's all work together.
Right.
Because we'll get through this together.
Yep. Good advice. And listen to News Talk 98.9 WRD, the voice of the Carolinas, because we are providing information. You know, this is an instance to where you really see the importance of radio, because we have from day one been talking about resources, where to go for things, and it's also a reminder to have an emergency kit and have a radio with batteries in it.
Joey, you're absolutely right. When you hear us on TV talking, saying, get ready, you guys, I mean, I've been bragging about talk radio since I've been lieutenant governor, and you've been my talk radio friend for the whole time. I know sometimes you think, oh, last time I heard this, nothing really happened. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? Isn't that the old adage?
That's right.
So when you hear these things, be very conscious of what's going to happen. Test those batteries. Get your flashlights out. Make sure you have some bottled water sitting around just in case. Hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? You have a flashlight with some good batteries and your radio is set to go, right?
Right.
That's the worst thing that can happen in being prepared.
Yep. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, it's always a pleasure. You be safe out there, and look, leave the chainsaws to David and the boys. Don't be messing with the chainsaws.
You are absolutely right, Joe. If anybody needs somebody to pull limbs, I'm your girl. I can pull limbs with the best of them.
Always a pleasure. Be safe out there.
God bless, Joe, and God bless all of you. Please take care and be kind.
Sure thing.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.